The moment Sydney said she needed space, something in me cracked. She stood in our favorite spot on campus. Behind her, the autumn trees were on fire, blazing reds and oranges, while she looked pale, washed out, like the world was draining from her skin. She wouldn't hold my eyes, just kept staring at her shoes like they were suddenly fascinating. "Noah, I just need time to figure myself out," she said. Soft. Almost rehearsed. I waited for her to laugh, to tell me it was a joke. But her voice didn't waver. She hugged her sweater closer like she was freezing, even though the sun still warmed my neck. "What does that mean?" I asked. "You need space from me?" She nodded, barely. "It's not about us. I promise." "But how do you separate you from us? How do you ask for space, but insist nothing is wrong?" I reached for her hand. She pulled back. That hurt more than the words. We'd been together since freshman orientation, two lost souls who bonded over bad cafeteria food and both nearly missing our campus tour group. 3 years of shared meals, shared beds, shared futures. Gone with 4 words. "I need some space." I tried to laugh it off. Space like a weekend? A week. Space like forever, her silence said. But all she told me was, "Just trust me, okay?" Trust. The one thing she never had to ask for. Until now. She walked away before I could call her out for lying. Because she was lying, I knew it. She was hiding something. And I hated that my heart refused to let me believe the worst. But the worst came anyway. I saw them together 2 weeks later. A tall guy. Older. Perfection carved into muscles and jawline. He stood too close next to her outside the library, her smile hesitant, small, but there. He brushed her hair behind her ear. She didn't stop him. Something in me died right there on the pavement. My brain didn't go to reason or context or maybe he's just a friend. No. It went straight to betrayal, straight to knives in my chest, straight to heartbreak that tasted like metal and humiliation. I wanted to scream at her. Demand answers. Ask how the hell she moved on so fast. Instead, I turned around and walked away before she noticed me. Went home. Sat in the dark. Replayed everything we'd ever said to each other like a detective searching for the clue I missed. Space. She needed space to fall into someone else's arms. Every night since, I've tried to hate her. Some nights I succeed. Especially when I kept seeing them together. At the dining hall. On the courtyard grass. Sharing laughs that used to be ours. Who the hell was he? Why did she replace me with him? Why didn't she tell me the truth? Hatred became easier than heartbreak. And I clung to it like it was the only thing keeping me breathing. I promised myself one thing. If she ever comes back, I won't forgive her. She chose him. Let her live with that. Days became weeks. Weeks blurred into another month I pretended didn't exist. I avoided everywhere Sydney might be. I changed my jogging route. I switched my favorite cafe. I even dropped the psychology elective we chose together just so I wouldn't have to sit beside the ghost of what we were. My roommate, Devin, tried to play therapist. "Bro, sometimes girls just move on faster," he said one night while playing FIFA, like my heartache was background noise to his game. I didn't answer. I didn't have the energy to turn my pain into a punchline. Instead, I replayed the same memory on repeat, Sydney's last look before she walked away. The tiny tremble in her fingers. The way she hugged herself. Why did I ignore that? Why did I focus only on my own confusion? Because confusion was easier than pain. One afternoon, I saw him again. The guy. They were walking across campus and she looked tired. Like she hadn't slept in days. But he stayed close, protective almost, his hand hovering near her back as if he was ready to catch her if she fell. I hated him for it. He glanced my way. Held eye contact for a moment that felt longer than it was. His expression wasn't smug or victorious like I expected. It was pity. I wanted to punch that pity clean off his face. Sydney didn't look at me. She just walked faster. Something inside me screamed. Devin dragged me to a party the following weekend because he said the walls of our room were swallowing my soul. I didn't want to go, but alcohol promised numbness, and numbness sounded holy. Halfway into my 3rd cup, a girl from my calculus class leaned in too close. She smelled like cheap vanilla vodka and heartbreak waiting to happen. You look like you need a distraction, she whispered. I almost let myself be distracted. I leaned in, searching for anything that wasn't Sydney. But just before our lips touched, a voice cut through the music. Noah. It wasn't Sydney. It was him. The guy I hated. The guy she left me for. The guy who claimed everything I wasn't. He walked toward me like we were friends and not enemies waiting to explode. We need to talk, he said, breath unsteady. I scoffed. Do we? I think you've done enough talking with her. His jaw clenched. It's not what you think. Of course it isn't. I laughed bitterly. She's just figuring herself out with your tongue in her mouth, right? People were turning to look, the music pulsing against the tension in the air. He didn't get angry. Didn't defend himself. He just looked desperate. You need to go see her, he urged. No thanks, I spat. You can keep her. He stared at me like he wished he could shake the truth into my skull. It's not about keeping her, he said, voice cracking, like he was the one hurting. She needs you. Right now. Please. I froze. Why would she need me? I'm the ex-boyfriend she dumped without blinking. He swallowed hard, and for the first time, fear washed through his expression. Because she's... His phone rang. He looked at the screen and his face went white. Completely drained. Without another word, he bolted for the door, nearly tripping over someone in the rush. And despite every grudge welded into my ribcage, I followed. We sprinted across campus, the night air cutting my lungs. He kept checking his phone like he expected the worst message imaginable. What's going on? I demanded. He didn't answer. We reached a small, quiet dorm building I'd never been inside before. He fumbled the door open and rushed up the stairs 2 at a time. I chased after him, panic scratching its way through my chest. He burst into her room. Sydney was on the floor. Her body, curled in on itself. Her breaths, shallow. Too shallow. Sydney, he dropped to his knees instantly, pulling her into his arms. I stood frozen in the doorway, disbelief strangling me. This wasn't heartbreak. This was something else. Her eyes found mine, barely open, glassy with a pain I didn't understand. Not sadness. Not guilt. Suffering. Noah, she whispered, like my name was a prayer she wasn't sure she deserved to say. I took 1 step forward. Just one. She fainted. And the world I had built, the one where she was the villain and I was the victim, began to crumble piece by piece. Because cheating doesn't look like this. Heartbreak doesn't make you collapse. This was something darker. Something I had been too blind to see. But by the time I realized it, it was already too late. Everything after that became a blur smeared with sirens, cold hospital lights, and the metallic taste of adrenaline I couldn't swallow down. He carried her to the car like she was made of glass, and he didn't trust the world not to drop her. I sat in the back seat next to her, holding her hand even though she couldn't feel it. Her skin was too cold. Her lips too pale. Her breathing too slow. What happened? I finally managed to say, voice cracking like I hadn't spoken in years. She's sick, he answered, eyes locked on the road, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Sick how? I demanded. A cold? Flu? What? He shook his head, jaw trembling. It's not something she can just get over. That means nothing, I snapped, panic turning everything inside me sharp and chaotic. Tell me exactly what's wrong with her. But he didn't. Or maybe he couldn't. I looked back down at her fingers wrapped in mine. They looked so small compared to how strong she used to be. Sydney was always the one who grabbed my wrist and led me into life, into love. She used to drag me into the rain just to dance under storms. She used to laugh so hard she'd forget to breathe. She used to be unstoppable. But the girl in the back seat wasn't unstoppable. She was holding on by threads. And I hadn't even noticed. We reached the hospital, and everything became shouting and rushing and doctors pulling her away from me like I was in the way, like the only thing I was good at was making things worse. A nurse told us to wait. He, the guy I hated, sank into a chair, elbows on his knees, shaking. Shaking in a way that told me every moment of this was tearing him apart. What's your name? I asked him quietly. He looked at me like he'd forgotten he had one. Liam. The name hit me like a punch. I'd heard it before. Sydney once mentioned her mom remarried after her dad left. She said she had a complicated family situation. I never pushed for details. Because back then, we had forever. And now, forever suddenly looked like a joke. Liam, I repeated, connecting pieces my heartbreak had refused to acknowledge. Are you her? He nodded. Stepbrother. My stomach turned inside out. All the anger, all the jealousy, all the hatred I'd sharpened against him. I had been wrong about everything. He wasn't competition. He was her family. A doctor finally came out. Liam stood up so fast his chair fell over. How is she? He asked. The doctor sighed, the kind of sigh that preludes the sort of truth no one wants to hear. We stabilized her for now, but she's running out of time. You need to call your parents. My heart stopped moving. Running out of time. What does that mean? I forced the words from my throat. She's going to recover, right? She's strong. She's the strongest person I've ever known. The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder like I was someone who belonged in her story. She didn't tell you, he said softly, almost apologetically. I blinked. Tell me what? Liam's voice broke before the doctor could respond. She has late-stage cancer, Noah. The floor fell away. The ceiling collapsed. Air disappeared. It didn't feel real. It couldn't be real. That's not funny, I breathed, refusing to accept the words. No one laughed. She didn't want you to see her like this, Liam continued, wiping tears he didn't have time to hide. She didn't want you to suffer with her. She thought, distancing herself would make it easier if... He choked on the truth. If she died. My chest constricted so violently I thought I might pass out. All this time, I thought she left me for someone else. When the truth was far crueler, she left so I wouldn't have to watch her fade. She broke my heart so I wouldn't have to break with her. And I had spent every second since hating her for it. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to hold myself together, but the world kept tearing at the seams. She didn't want me to suffer? My voice cracked into something wounded and wrong. What about her? She suffered alone because of me. No, Liam shook his head firmly. She suffered because she loved you. I collapsed into a chair as a single realization pierced through every lie I'd told myself to survive. I didn't lose Sydney to another guy. I lost her to time, to fear, to fate, to something I couldn't fight. And worse, I had wasted the last months resenting the only girl I ever loved. The doctor asked if we wanted to see her. I couldn't stand. Liam helped me up. We walked down the quiet hallway, the hum of machines warning that time was a currency Sydney didn't have anymore. When I saw her lying in that hospital bed, thinner, tubes in her arms, lips dry and still, I felt my heart rip straight out of my chest. Because the love of my life was disappearing. And I had no idea how to bring her back. I didn't recognize the girl in the bed. Her face was hollow where joy used to live. Her lashes, once long and curled with laughter, now fell flat over dark circles bruising her eyes. Even her breathing sounded tired, like each inhale was an argument she kept losing. My knees nearly buckled. This wasn't the Sydney who kissed me breathless after every argument. This wasn't the girl who dragged me into photo booths or tickled me until I swore revenge. This wasn't the fierce, fearless hurricane I fell in love with. This was a version of her I never should have been introduced to this late. Liam stood quietly at the door, giving me space I didn't deserve. I walked closer, fingers trembling. I reached out and hesitated, afraid she'd vanish if I touched her. Her eyelids fluttered, and slowly, she opened her eyes. It took her a moment to focus, and when she did, when she realized it was me, a weak smile pulled at the corner of her lips. You came, she whispered. 2 words. 2 bullets. I almost dropped to the floor again. I pulled up a chair and sat, unable to drag my eyes away from her. Tears threatened, but I refused to let them fall, not yet. I wanted to be strong for her, like she always was for me. I'm sorry, I croaked. For what? She tilted her head slightly, confusion slipping into her expression. For everything. For thinking you were unfaithful. For hating you. For letting you go so easily. For not noticing your pain. But she didn't need a list. Just those 2 words seemed to weigh enough. She closed her eyes, sighing softly. Don't be. I just wanted to remember you the way you were, happy. Not broken because of me. That shattered me. How could you think my happiness exists without you? I asked, my voice breaking. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Maybe she couldn't anymore. Maybe her tears dried up long before my suspicions began. I didn't want you to see me like this, she whispered. I wanted you to remember me laughing. Remember me dancing. Remember my smile. Her hand inched toward mine with effort, so I closed the space, gripping her fingers gently. She sighed like she'd been waiting for that warmth. I will remember everything, I said, breath shaking. Even the days you hated me. I never hated you, she cut in soft but absolute. I just needed you to let me go. I stared at her as the reality punched through me. She broke us to spare me. She swallowed her suffering so I wouldn't taste it. She turned herself into the villain so I could move on freely. And I had cursed her name for it. The days blurred together after that. Hospital visits became my schedule. Watching her fade became my life. Friends stopped checking in because every conversation with me died halfway through. I stopped leaving my room except to sit beside her bed. I stopped eating properly, hunger felt pointless when she barely ate at all. I stopped sleeping, dreams only repeated the moment she let go of my hand on campus. Devin tried to intervene once. I yelled at him until he left. I wasn't a person anymore, just a shell orbiting her decline. Liam told me she'd always look out the window when she was too weak to speak, watching students walk to class, pretending she still belonged to the world outside hospital walls. I should have been there. Not out partying. Not drowning in anger. Not letting resentment suffocate what love we had left. Every night, the guilt rotted deeper into my chest. She didn't ask me about my life anymore. Didn't ask what I was studying or who I sat with at lunch. Because she knew soon none of it would matter to her. But she still asked one question every day. Are you okay? I always lied. Yeah, I'm fine. She didn't need more weight added to the burden already killing her. Yet every time I left the hospital, I broke a little more. Until one night, I completely snapped. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, gripping the sink so hard my knuckles went white. My reflection looked like a ghost, hollow cheeks, red eyes, a beard forming where I once cared about shaving. I looked like someone dying too. Then I slammed my fist into the glass. It cracked violently, shards glinting under the flickering light. Blood slid down my fingers. I didn't feel it. I heard a choking sound and realized it was me, sobbing so violently I couldn't catch a breath. My chest collapsed inward like the grief was physically crushing my ribs, squeezing my heart until it begged for mercy. I slid down to the floor, hands bleeding, lungs screaming, mind spinning with every memory of her laughter, now replaced with images of her hooked up to machines. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was whisper her name over and over like a curse and a prayer tangled into one. Sydney. Sydney, please don't leave me. The cruel irony was brutal. I had promised myself I wouldn't forgive her. And now I was terrified there wasn't enough time to tell her I did. Because the truth was clear. I never lost her to another man. I was losing her to the end. And the worst part? I couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. I started living in stolen moments. Like the seconds she'd open her eyes and smile, a weak, fragile smile, but still hers. Or the way she'd squeeze my hand when the pain hit, telling me silently she was still fighting. Or the rare occasions she'd laugh at a dumb joke I forced out just to hear that sound one more time. I memorized every detail as if God was about to erase her. The exact shade of brown in her eyes when sunlight hit them. The soft freckle near her left eyebrow she always tried to hide. The way she said my name like I was something precious. I wrote them down in a notebook. Because the thought of forgetting anything was unbearable. But every day, she slipped further. Every day, I lost a little more of her. We have to accept the outcome, a doctor told us. What an awful sentence. Cold. Final. Accepting felt like betrayal. Sydney didn't talk much anymore, not because she didn't want to, but because speaking seemed exhausting. Like every word cost too much of the little life she had left. One day, she whispered, "Noah, come here." I leaned in. Her breath was light and shaky against my cheek. Don't stay because you feel guilty, she murmured. Go live your life. I'm staying because I love you, I said immediately, too quickly, because the idea of her misunderstanding that terrified me. She let the silence sit for a moment. Then she nodded, as if accepting something she'd tried to deny. Then promise me you'll keep living, even after. I shook my head violently. Don't say that. Please. Don't talk like it's already over. Her lips curved faintly. Even the heroes can't win every battle. I clutched her fingers like I could anchor her to earth with touch alone. You're my hero, I whispered. She closed her eyes, fighting back tears and pain. Nights became the worst. Hospitals are designed to make you fear the dark, the beeping monitors, the slow ticks of death hidden beneath routine. I'd sit in the chair and watch her chest rise and fall, terrified each rise might be the last. I prayed, not because I was religious, but because I was desperate. Take anything. Take everything. Just leave me, Sydney. But prayer doesn't negotiate with fate. One evening, Liam approached me with a heaviness in his eyes that made me dizzy. He held an envelope sealed, soft at the edges like it had been carried around for too long. She wanted me to give this to you, he said quietly. After. My heart stopped. No, I said instantly. No, not after. Don't talk like she's. Read it when the time comes, he interrupted gently. He tried to put the letter in my hand. I stepped back like it was poison. If I take that, I'm admitting she's going to die, I whispered. Liam's face crumpled. She is going to die, Noah. Anger exploded inside me. You knew about it. You knew this whole time and didn't tell me. How could you let me hate her? How could you watch me believe she left because she didn't love me? His eyes reddened instantly. She made me promise, he said. She said she wanted your last memories of her to be beautiful. That's not her choice. I yelled. I should have been with her through everything. I should have held her hair back when she threw up. I should have been there for every treatment. Instead, I was out hating her, hating you. Do you have any idea how destroyed she must have felt seeing me walk away? He broke down then, cracking open like the truth finally weighed more than he could carry. She cried every night, Noah. Every night. His voice trembled. She loved you more than anyone. That's why she pushed you away. She thought she was protecting you. I sank into the wall, sliding down until I hit the cold floor. Because now I saw it clearly. Sydney had made the noble choice. The selfless choice. And I resented her for it anyway. Hours blurred. Nurses moved around us like ghosts. The night deepened. Her breathing slowed. The doctor said we should prepare ourselves. Prepare ourselves for what? Losing the person who made the world make sense? There's no preparation for that. I held her hand tighter, hoping she could feel how terrified I was. How sorry I was. How much I needed her to stay. She opened her eyes one last time, and they searched for me like I was her home. Noah, she breathed. Thank you for loving me. My throat burned. Don't go. Please. I'm not ready. She managed the smallest smile. It was still beautiful. I'll see you in the next world. Her voice faded. Her gaze unfocused. Monitors screamed. Liam shouted for help. Doctors rushed in. I was pushed back from the bed from her as they tried to fight death with their hands and wires and medicine that came too late. I pressed my palms to the glass of the observation window. My vision blurred. My heart cracked into pieces too small to ever fix. She didn't look at me again. The longest minute of my life passed. And then silence. One doctor stepped back. Another lowered her head. A nurse reached up and turned off the monitor. The line went flat. I expected a shatter, a breaking, a thunderous collapse of reality. But instead, the world just kept going. Like her ending didn't matter to anyone but me. My knees buckled. My head fell into my bloody hands. And I screamed without sound. Because my entire universe had just died. And I was still breathing. The nurse hands me a white envelope, soft at the edges from being held too often. My name is written in her handwriting, the little heart above the I she always said she was too old for. I stare at it for a full minute before I can breathe again. I finally open it. Sydney's letter. My Noah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry not because I left, but because I didn't stay long enough. I never wanted you to remember me weak. The girl who laughed too loud, who kissed you mid-sentence, who dragged you into the rain because the clouds deserved company. That's the me I wanted you to keep. Cancer steals so much. Hair, strength, control. But I refuse to let it steal your memory of me. And I know you're angry. I know you think I chose someone else. But he wasn't someone else. He was blood I barely got to know. He held my hand when I learned I might not make it to next winter. He wasn't my love, you were. You always were. I wanted to tell you. Every day. But how do you ask the love of your life to watch you disappear piece by piece? How do you ask him to stay when you know he'll be left holding nothing but pain? So I chose the cruelty of distance over the cruelty of goodbye. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But I hoped maybe you'd heal faster if you hated me. Noah, promise me something. Don't give up your heart just because mine stopped. There are people out there right now, fighting battles like mine, praying for one more birthday, one more kiss, one more sunrise. If you ever meet someone who lived through that darkness, love them a little extra for me. Celebrate every moment you get with them. Laugh like the world isn't scary. Dance even when there's no music. Do the things we never got to finish. And if a day comes when the weight feels too heavy, look up. A girl with rain-soaked shoes and smudged lipstick will be cheering for you. I'm taking all our memories with me. The firsts, the almosts, the maybes, the forevers we never got. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me a life worth fighting for. I'll be waiting in the next world, smiling. Yours, always, Sydney Crescent Moon. I finished reading with the paper trembling in my fingers, soaked with tears that won't stop. For the first time since she said she needed space. I understand everything. I press the letter to my chest, as if maybe I can hold her heart through it. And for the first time in months, I whisper the words she deserved to hear. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. And I love you too.